Time now for another review. What?
Yeah. There's no another review when we haven't made one yet. This is our first one.
Our first one, technically.
Our first review.
Not the first review on this channel, but yeah, we put up a poll a couple days ago. And thanks to everybody that did vote. Appreciate it. And most of you voted in favor of us doing spoiler TV movie reviews. So we're starting it off with a movie we watched last night. And I think it was Bounty Hunter that recommended it during your stream the other night.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, if we're not mistaken, I think it was Bounty Hunter.
Yeah.
All Quiet on the Western Front,
Yeah.
which has gotten rave reviews. It came out officially in 2022. So I guess we'll do like a non-spoiler review, like really quick what we think about it. Is it great? Is it bad? Somewhere in the middle. And then we'll go into spoilers.
Okay.
So it was based off the book, All Quiet on the Western Front, that was published in 1929 from a soldier that served in World War One. He also made a sequel to the book. Now, what's interesting is this book was published during the rise of the Third Reich, Nazi Germany, and All Quiet on the Western Front was actually a banned book, and copies of it were burned by the Nazis, and it fortunately survived the war. It was originally made into a movie a year later in 1930. So the original All Quiet on the Western Front, 1930. Then 1979, a TV movie. And of course, most recently with the 2022 version of All Quiet on the Western Front.
Right.
On Netflix. That's where we watched it. If you want to watch it as well and you have Netflix, you can watch All Quiet on the Western Front on Netflix. And the budget. You won't believe how big the budget was or how small it was.
How small it was?
$20 million.
Just that? For Netflix?
Like, I know Wikipedia is not always honest, but they're mostly reliable. And it's hard to believe that that movie was made with only $20 million.
Yeah. It does look like over 80 million.
I mean, they were great with their production value. Of that
It
movie.
looks better than the most recent Marvel films.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there's movies that are like 5 times as much budget and don't even feel like the same quality of a movie. The acting was phenomenal, and like the wardrobe, the setting, it felt real.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. In fact, we're flying in a Curtis Jenny, a World War I biplane, obviously, and we're flying over France because the movie
It goes hand in hand.
most of the movie takes place, at the border between Germany and Paris. I mean, Germany and France. So that's the two factions that are fighting. Well, World War I was more than just Germany versus France, but it was the Western Front, obviously.
Right.
This movie has also been up for awards. And in fact, it won 7 BAFTAs, which is the British Academy Awards. 7 awards so far. Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best International Feature. It is up for 9 Oscars. And that's happening on March 12th. Now, most of the time, I don't give 2 shits about the Oscars.
Right.
But that's pretty impressive for a $20 million war film to be getting all this praise and all these reviews. And I feel like it's more than justified.
It totally deserves it, in my opinion.
It absolutely did. So the setting, obviously World War I, from Germany's point of view. So the German Empire. Not the Nazis. The Nazis come later. The German Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And it is in German or English. So you can pick between German and English. This was filmed, I think, by a German crew, German actors, German production. And so the main language is German, which makes sense. Well, German and French, because you have also the French that the German soldiers run into.
Right.
But you can switch it to English if you want. So they did hire voice actors to dub it in English, and I think mostly it worked.
Yeah, I think it worked.
Because I did watch it a little. I was watching a little bit of some scenes, and like, yeah, there are moments where you're like, yeah, it's clearly like English over somebody speaking in German.
Yeah, and you can in some scenes you can definitely see the lip sync.
Yeah, and it's better not to really pay attention to that,
Yeah.
especially if you're going to watch the English dubbed version.
Yeah, it's just best to just ignore that and
Yeah.
just watch the movie as it is.
Yeah, and if you want to just watch it in German, you can do that too with English subtitles. And if you happen to speak German, then I guess all the better, right?
Yep.
So the length, pretty long, 147 minutes.
What is that, like an Avatar movie, basically?
Yeah, it was pretty long.
Avatar long?
Did you feel like it was too long or just right, or?
I feel like it was just right.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like anything dragged. There wasn't like any scenes that were like, ugh, can we get this over with?
Yeah,
Avatar
watched,
had that.
Yeah, we've watched movies like that where they could have trimmed a little bit of fat.
Yeah.
Like James Cameron, it felt like that he made Way of the Water a little too long.
Yeah, there were some scenes where it's like, okay, can we get this over with so we can see what's going to happen next?
Yeah, but
Some things just took way too long.
Yeah.
And it's like the scene line was like 2 to 3 hours.
yeah, but I feel like I feel like for the most part I agree. Like even though it's a long movie, it's long for a reason because it really wants to get you into that perspective of being a German soldier. And we're going to go into spoilers in just a minute, but the main characters, Paul Baumer, which is the young 17-year-old who lies about his age in order to go off to the war with his friends. And eventually they meet an older soldier named Kat, and Paul and Kat become really good friends.
Yeah.
But there's also like these additional stories, so that's like the A story, but like the B story is a secondary character. I had to go and look this up. Matthias Eisenberg, he's the German official whose son got killed in the war, who's trying to end the war. Mm-hmm. So you have this secondary story with Eisenberg and his team going to meet the French in order to hammer out an armistice. So that story's happening. But then there's this third story regarding General Fredericks. We'll talk more about that in the spoilers. So there's, 3 different stories happening?
Yeah, it's like 3 arcs.
Yeah. Well, there's a story at the beginning, but we won't talk about that just yet.
Yeah.
That story doesn't last very long, but it does tie into the main story. So overall, what did you think about All Quiet on the Western Front before we get into spoilers?
It was entertaining.
Yeah.
I would say that. It was like, of course, it was horrific at the same time.
Yeah, there's definitely gore. I mean, it definitely feels like a war film.
Yeah, there's no like comedy in there thrown in, like some little small gag.
Yeah, well, there's some light moments in the darkness with the the soldiers when they're not at war and they're just hanging out eating and carrying on.
But they're not overdoing it.
Yeah,
like that Marvel movie.
Exactly. It feels more realistic.
Yeah, so I like that. Yeah, it was dark. It was a dark movie, but overall I liked it, and that's it for spoiler free, I guess, for me.
Yeah, for you. Yeah, I would highly recommend this movie, especially if you're into history and war films, and you have Netflix, and you love movies like this. Definitely check out All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not into history and all that shit, and I liked it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're all about that history, and, rather than me, I'm just, rather, well, sure, I'll join you, kind of deal.
Yeah, so I guess we both give it rave reviews, spoiler free.
I give it 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll do the same. 9 out of 10. I know that doesn't really mean anything, but she likes to do on a scale of 1 to 10 for everything. Yep. So we'll do that. Okay, we'll both give it a 9 out of 10 for All Quiet on the Western Front. Now I guess we'll talk about spoilers. And if you've watched All Quiet on the Western Front, feel free and let us know your thoughts about it below in the comment section. And what other movies or TV shows would you like us to review down the road? By the way, I do have a TV and a movie review playlist on this channel, and I'm going to add more reviews to those playlists from my other channels.
Okay.
So, previous reviews I have done in TV shows for movies, yeah, it's already there. Check it out in the playlist. And obviously future reviews that we do, whether it's a TV show or a movie, going forward on our vlogs channel. And yeah, we're still going to continue to do the monthly vlogs, of course, and specials here and there. This is just additional content.
All right.
Okay, so spoilers now. You have been warned. A big spoiler. Germany lost the First World War.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Major spoilers. Germany doesn't win. Well, fortunately, they didn't win the Second War either.
Shouldn't you know that if you know your history?
I know. I'm just trying to be funny.
Oh.
It's like the whole, the spoiler about Titanic.
Yeah, Titanic sinks.
It was a running joke. People made this joke about sitting in line. I know this is going to really date myself as ancient by now. And the running joke was people were outside waiting for a Titanic, and they were talking about the ship sinking, and other people would get upset, how dare you spoil the movie? It's like, dude, yeah, the Titanic, it sank. History, bruh. But anyway, so yes, obviously World War One, and it actually follows a different character at the beginning. This other soldier named Heinrich, I think.
Heinrich, yeah.
Yeah, Heinrich. And Heinrich doesn't last very long.
He lasts for a minute.
Yeah.
And then, bam.
Yeah, he gets killed in an offensive push. He goes over the top with his lads, with his comrades.
Everybody dying.
Basically, the Germans fighting the French, and it shows some horrors of war, like not only dead bodies and explosions and gore.
And then the fear.
Yeah, the fear. That's one thing that really impressed me with a lot of these actors is how they really got into their characters, the main characters, even the secondary characters.
Yeah, because especially when they tell you like, you see like go up there and he gets shot in the dome.
Yeah, that one dude that went up there, boom.
And then he has like, hi Rick, go, and you guys, like the fear.
Yeah.
And it was like amazing.
Yeah, and he goes over the top. He doesn't get killed at first, and he's going across, the field of death, with the trench warfare. And, there's soldiers dying left and right around him,
Mm-hmm.
And the last scene we see of him is he runs out of bullets. Of course, he's not really trying to shoot anybody. He's he's
He's blind firing.
Basically, because he's obviously terrified. He doesn't really want to be there, but he has no choice. He's given orders.
Mm-hmm.
He either goes off and fights and dies, or else the officer in command is just going to put a bullet in his head, probably.
Yeah, so he was gonna die either way.
He was going to sadly die either way. But in the end, he does pull out his shovel, and he does, I think he does at least get, a killing blow on a French soldier.
Yeah, he kills one, and then he
cuts to black.
Yeah, it cuts to black, and...
It's implying that he dies shortly after, because, of course, you find all the bodies, coffins being buried, and the shoes, the clothing is being taken off Heinrich and all the other soldiers that died, and they're being put into bags, loaded onto trucks and trains, and sent back to Germany. And why is that happening?
Because they're basically on shortages, I guess. They're on shortages, and they just want to give those clothes. They clean them up. They remove the bullet holes and sew them back on.
They're recycling them basically.
Yeah, and then just give it to new troops.
Yeah, new recruits.
And
of course, that's where we pick up with Paul and his friends.
Yep.
And I think all his friends are technically older than him. They're all 18. He's the youngest one.
Yeah, he's 17.
And so he basically has his father's name forged.
Yeah, because he says your father will hate you. So basically, he wanted to go with his friends.
Yeah.
But his father apparently didn't or something.
His father and mother don't want him to go off to war. We never meet his mother and father, but it is implied later on in the movie that his mother didn't want him to go either.
Yeah. Yeah, he said that.
And the fact that his father would hit him, that tells me that his dad probably didn't want him to go off either.
Yeah, but he was probably going to get chosen anyways.
Well, a year later he would have been legally able to go off to war, but he wanted to go off with his friends,
But wait a second, if I'm not mistaken, the war lasted 2 years, from the beginning to the end of the movie.
Well, yeah, it's 1917 when we join Paul and his friends.
Yeah,
when they're about to sign up.
So he would have get chosen anyways.
Yeah, but it would have been near the end of the war, probably. But they're all filled with German patriotism, and they're just thinking, hey, we're going to be heroes. We're going to go off. We're going to be very honorable. And they're being sold this bill of goods by the principal, right? Because I think it's the principal of their school.
Yeah, the principal.
That's talking about, yeah, you are going off to fight this noble cause. And when you come home, I'm going to be so proud of you. And everyone's going to be so proud of you. And you're going to make the fatherland proud. And, all these young boys. And this is the thing that happened back then. Is that was the greatest honor for a man to do was go off and fight and
for your country.
Yeah, and most likely die.
They
don't really tell you that part. They just tell you how heroic and glorious and how manly you'll be, and the stories they'll talk about, and how proud your family will be, and the opportunities you'll have when you get back, and all the women that'll fawn over you, a former soldier in uniform.
Yeah, not the horrors.
Yeah, the truth that
they don't tell you that.
Yeah, they don't. But yeah, after they all sign up, and of course, the interesting thing about Heinrich, the reason why they show Heinrich at the beginning is guess who gets his coat?
The protagonist, Paul.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they forgot to take Heinrich's name tag out in the back of the coat.
Yeah.
And so the dude pulls off the name tag. He's like, no, this was meant for you. It was mistaken for somebody else. So he gives Paul this line of bullshit when he's giving him his uniform.
Yeah.
And then he throws it under the desk, and then there's a whole bunch of other tags.
Yeah.
So they go to the trouble to collect all the dead soldiers' uniform, coat, shoes, and haul them back to Germany to be washed and cleaned up and sewed, but they don't even bother to pull the tags off the former soldiers.
You just think you would got a pair of scissors and then just remove the tag. But no, apparently not. But I guess it sells the little horror that, you're wearing that man's jacket.
Yeah, without even realizing it. Plus, it connects the dots between Heinrich and Paul.
Yeah.
And there's this interesting cycle that happens. The recruit becoming a soldier and then dying and then kind of, I guess, passing the torch in a way off to a different soldier.
Yeah.
So they get to the front lines. They're arriving by truck, but several of their trucks were acquired by the doctor because he had 40 wounded that he needed to get back to a hospital.
Yeah.
So Paul's unit, they have to walk on foot to the front, and of course Paul isn't exactly made himself loved by his lieutenant.
No, he's very slow
because he hasn't cleaned his gun. So I think he asked Paul, "Do you like dirty girls?"
He's like, "No, I don't. I don't like him either dirty, so keep him clean."
Yeah,
and it's just referring to the gun.
Yeah, and he was already on the lieutenant's bad side, and all of a sudden, the first instance of them walking down the trench toward, like, they still have a ways to walk, but a bomb drops nearby.
Yeah, it's like artillery.
So this is their first taste of what they're in store for. So any instance of hope and glory, I think, is starting to quickly fade out of their minds.
It goes out the window.
Yeah, and so obviously they all just drop down. They freak out because bomb.
Yeah, because bombs.
And then the lieutenant, who's obviously, he's an asshole, but he's also a seasoned soldier. He knows this is a great opportunity to test them. So what does he do?
He takes advantage of the situation.
Yeah, he tells them it's a gas bomb. Even though it's not a gas bomb, he wants to see how quickly they can put their gas masks on.
Okay.
And Paul's best friend, who wears glasses, it takes him a quick minute to try and get his mask together. So Paul helps him put his mask on, but that makes it look bad on Paul because it takes him the longest to get his mask on after he gets his friend's mask on.
Yeah, so the general goes to him and
the lieutenant
and makes him look bad. Like, yeah, you're gonna be the first one to die, or you won't be able to live like very long.
Yeah, and he was already having to do guard duty that night.
Yeah, so even worse.
And he had to wear his mask all the way to the trench.
Yep.
So he was the only one that had to wear the mask.
Yeah, and then of course they make it over there.
Yeah.
And like they talk a little bit. They meet some people.
They meet Kat.
Yeah, they meet Kat, which is one of the main characters.
Yeah.
And then bam, just like that, another artillery strike.
Yeah. Well, prior to that, they were on guard duty and they thought they heard something in front of them. Like it was him and his friend.
Oh yeah, they heard something and then they went to go check it out, and one of them gets shot in the head. And in the helmet.
Yeah,
and
Paul gets shot in the helmet because he shot at the body, and the reason why I was moving,
it was because of rats.
Yeah, rats were feasting on the dead body, and like within a few seconds of shooting the dead body, Paul gets shot in the helmet, and it knocks him back.
Yeah,
and that's his first near-death experience, and then Kat basically gives him some sage wisdom, like when you shoot, after you shoot, move over.
Yeah, basic knowledge.
Yeah.
But, yeah, then after that, the artillery starts coming in.
Yeah, they go into a bunker.
One of them gets, like, really fucking scared. They get out and they get blown to bits.
Yep.
And then the other dude's like, I want to go home. And then the bomb lands on them, and the whole bunker starts falling apart.
Yeah.
And then...
almost everyone gets out of the bunker into the trench, but Paul ends up getting trapped in the
Yeah. And then a bunch of them get trapped, and it cuts to black.
Yeah, and a few hours later, they dig Paul out, so... Yeah. Paul, he's obviously been banged up a little bit, but he's no worse for wear.
Yeah. And then, of course, he goes... They go to meet with Kat, and it's like, go eat. Are you injured? Mm-hmm. Because an officer comes in, and it's like, no. Okay, then start gathering, which is like the dog tags.
Yeah, their dog tags, yeah.
So start gathering the dog tags, and then who do we see on the ground?
His best friend.
His best friend.
Because first he steps on his glasses.
Yeah, Mr. Glasses, man.
And then he finds his body, and he just
without his leg.
Yep.
And of course he's crying and seeing the horrors of war because he wanted to go home and now he's dead.
Yeah.
And this is like very early in the movie too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it gets even worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Paul starts seeing like the horror coming in, and this is like at the beginning, and then it gets even worse for him.
Yeah, because then there's I think there's an 18-month time jump.
Yeah.
Where Paul's now more seasoned now.
Yeah. He becomes more, I think this is like literally right after the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, he becomes more seasoned, and now he's friends with, I think...
Him and Kat are, like, best buds now.
Yeah, him and Kat. And then you have Albert.
Yeah, you have Albert, he's kind of weird.
And then you have Franz.
Franz, he's a ladies' man, and he ends up, I guess they allude to the fact he ends up hooking up with some French girls, or at least one French girl. Eloise, I think, he ends up getting a scar from her. Right. They don't show that, by the way. They just show him wandering off into a field with these French girls.
Right.
But, yeah... Before that scene, you had Kat and Paul go off to a French farm.
Yeah, to steal for food. Yeah, they want food.
Yeah, they end up because they're hungry, right? Because the German army's not exactly winning the war at the moment, so probably food rationing is very, very tight. So
yeah,
soldiers are foraging just like soldiers do in war. And unfortunately, farms end up being the target. So it's Paul, it's Cat, and Cat sneaks in. He grabs a goose. The farmer finds out about it and starts shooting at him, but they manage to run off with the dead goose.
Yeah.
And so him, Paul, Cat, and the rest of the boys enjoy some delicious goose stew.
Yeah. And, yeah, they enjoy the food, all of them, all 5 of them.
It's probably one of the more happier moments in the movie, one of the few happy moments when they're just hanging out, just enjoying stew and singing and doing shanties and, like, laughing and just enjoying what few moments that soldiers would have in between war and battle.
Yeah. But what happens next? Then, if I'm not mistaken, they get sent on a mission.
Yeah, they do. They get sent on a mission.
It's Cat, Albert, Paul, and Franz, all 4 of them. I think there's only 4.
There's a few others that go with them as well, but
yeah,
there's Trayden too, because he's the one with the eye.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Trayden.
And okay, so that's the main group, and then they get sent on a mission.
Because there's 60 young recruits missing.
Yeah, there's 60 young recruits missing. It's like they were supposed to be like going somewhere.
Yeah, they were supposed to arrive, where they were by now.
Yeah, but they arrive. Apparently, Paul gets excited. He sees like a little magazine.
Albert gets excited.
Oh, Albert?
Yeah, Albert's the kind of the weird one.
Okay, the Albert gets excited over a little.
He would be a modern day simp now. He would be simping over the streamers.
Yeah,
he was simping over this French artwork of this French chick.
Okay, yeah, there's a French chick. There's some artwork, and he's like, "Oh my God, hello there."
Yeah.
And then he cuts the basically the picture and takes it for himself.
Yeah.
And the place was abandoned, so nobody would have caught him or cared.
It looked like an abandoned train station.
They went over there. They were looking for the man, and of course, I think Paul finds them, and then he calls Cat and everybody else to go in there, and you see all of them basically.
All 60 are dead.
All 60 are dead, and it's because they didn't put their mask.
They were gas attacked, and they put on their masks apparently, but they
took them off too early.
Yep. And so they all died.
Yeah, they all died. So you see all 60 men all just
laying there dead.
Yeah, smelling like shit.
I can imagine that smell how it was.
No, that's horrific. Just going in there and I couldn't sleep for the night.
No,
that's just horrific and nightmarish.
Yeah.
Of course, if that happened to me, obviously we're seeing it through the eyes of somebody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, if like you jump in there, like we open the door right now, we see 60 dead men. Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was horrific. So they find him, then they report back, and then they continue with the war.
Yeah. And then they're sent off to another battle, and it's really cool. They're in a convoy of trucks, and they get to a certain point. And it's early in the morning,
and they turn off the lights.
At a certain point, the trucks start turning off their lights, so they're not noticed. And that was another thing that you were curious about when we were watching early on, is why was the enemy shooting flares?
Yeah, because of the artillery.
Yeah, in order to light up the battlefield, because they didn't have the technology we have now. They didn't have night vision. They didn't have GPS or satellite imaging.
Yeah,
that's how they would pinpoint at night where the enemy was and exactly where to pinpoint their artillery, because the enemy would fire artillery, and they would move the artillery up, and behind the artillery, the infantry would move up in trench warfare.
Right.
And so the next battle happens where you have everybody all the Germans just go over the top, and they end up actually getting the drop on the French in this one.
I think, yeah, but obviously, of course, they get like the advantage. They take over.
Yeah, they take over the French trench. And by the way, this war, like as I mentioned at the end of the movie, and this is pretty much how it happened. A lot of the trench warfare they were just fighting over a few feet, a few yards, maybe a few miles, and millions of soldiers on both sides died over just a few feet. Taking a trench, losing a trench.
Yeah, back and forth.
Yeah. So the French soldiers, Paul, Cat, and the others, they take a trench, they kill a whole bunch of French.
Yeah, and then they find some food. They're enjoying the food. They're just having the time of their lives. But then for some reason, they hear rumbling.
Yeah.
And you see all the rats. Yeah, you see all the rats running away. So it's like, what is that? And then you look up the trench, and you see like
tanks.
This mysterious. Yeah, it's basically tanks.
Yeah, tanks.
You see like 5-6 tanks. And they start freaking the fuck out because they've never seen a tank, probably.
No, I get the feeling that they probably, if they have never seen tanks up to that point, which I doubt, because tanks became a main force in the First World War.
But I mean, for them,
yeah,
it was the first time for them seeing a tank.
Well,
at least for Paul.
Maybe, but I don't know for sure. We're just assuming that. But I'm not trying to sound like I'm being malevolent here, but I do like the fear on their faces when they're sitting there eating the food and they hear the rumbling, and you can tell by the expression on their faces that they pretty much know what's heading towards them.
Yeah.
Like the rumbling is, a telltale sign that, like their victory has been very short. Yeah, exactly, very short-lived.
But yeah, they come out, they see the tanks, and they start running for their lives, and they have to run because
at first they don't.
No, at first they don't. They start shooting back.
Yeah,
but
then tanks.
Yeah, and then they run and run and run, but they have to keep moving and running because what's behind them? Flamethrower dudes.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the tanks head to the trench, and the Germans are trying to stop the tanks, but they can't stop them with simple bullets. And one tank actually crashes into the trench and just runs over one dude.
Yeah, that's
pancakes his ass.
Yeah. But then you see like flamethrowers behind them.
Yeah, the flamethrowers.
And then you see what happened to those that stayed behind on the trench.
Yeah, they get burned alive by the flamethrowers.
Yeah. So basically after that, you see all of them running, but then I think Paul and Kat got stay behind.
And Albert.
And they keep running to the tank, and then they throw a grenade in there and blew one tank.
They managed to take out one tank with those German grenades.
Yeah, so they managed to take out one tank, but then they keep running like Paul and Kat, but Albert got left behind.
Yeah, and he tried to surrender, and he said, "Don't shoot." But
don't shoot.
The French didn't shoot, though.
Yeah, they didn't shoot. Well, they did.
Well, they burned him.
They
Poor Albert.
Yeah, they flamethrowed his ass, and then they shot him once.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and before they went over the trench and to attack the French, like Albert put that artwork of that woman that.
Oh yeah, he did on the wall, and he says, "I'm gonna be coming for you."
I'll come back for you.
Yeah, I'll come back for you. But then he gets burned and roasted.
He didn't come back.
No.
And so the Germans managed to run back to their trench they previously were at, and then they have a small break. I think they drink some water. And then they're given the order to grab whatever they can grab. The machine gun, bullets.
Yeah.
And now the French are really coming after them.
Yeah, and basically, I think Paul got left behind and he falls into a hole.
Yeah.
And then
there's also biplanes, by the way, attacking. So we have biplanes like.
Yeah, they made a making straight.
Yeah.
They made like a mega push with the tanks and planes.
So the French have infantry, they have flamethrowers, they have tanks, and they have biplanes. It might not just be the French, and maybe the British and the Americans at this point also helping the French. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the Germans are getting their asses kicked.
So yeah, then after that, Paul falls into a hole. He tries to play dead.
Yeah.
And then you see this one dude in the background who's aiming at Paul.
Yeah, French soldier. Yeah.
Yeah, but he gets blown away last second by an artillery strike, and he falls into the hole with Paul.
Yeah.
And then they're both fighting for their lives.
Yeah.
Because basically. Obviously, they want to kill each other because somebody has to walk out alive because otherwise they'll kill each other.
Yeah.
So Paul goes to him with a knife and he pins him down and, of course, stabs him like Detroit Become Human.
Yeah.
28 stab wounds.
He manages to stab his foe a few times, but he doesn't kill him.
No, he doesn't kill him. He starts gagging for his life. Obviously, he's choking on his own blood. And he's like, "Shut up, please shut up." And then, out of nowhere, for some reason, Paul tries to save him.
Yeah, it's weird because at one moment, Paul dumps some mud into his mouth to try to keep him from screaming for help.
Yeah.
And then Paul just, I guess at a moment, stops seeing him as an enemy and just seeing him as a fellow human being.
Yeah, but sadly...
It's too late.
It's too late. He already stabbed him 28 times.
Yeah, dude dies anyways.
So, yeah, then he checks his pockets. He sees he had a family, and he starts feeling bad because, of course, you just killed... family man.
Yeah, and then he says something about I promise. So I guess it implies he's gonna at least try to get whatever he had, the diary, the photos, and whatnot,
back to his
family or something. I don't know if Paul ends up actually successfully.
I don't think so.
No, probably not.
No, but then after that,
he stumbles back to this castle that General Fredericks is at, and the rest of the troops.
Yeah, he stumbles back there, but then you see. The train arriving and the signing starts.
Oh yeah, because the B story is also happening in conjunction with this, and there's some good contrast where these soldiers are just barely surviving off of turnip bread and occasionally if they're able to get their hands on a goose
or some soup.
Whereas General Fredericks, which is their commanding officer, he's living up in the castle, he's just from his history, this lineage of warriors. His father served under Bismarck. And he gets to find his food, but he's complaining about being on the losing side. Like I want us to win, but the Social Democrats back in Germany,
he's not lifting a finger.
Yeah,
basically, he's basically the piece of shit of the movie.
He is a piece of shit, but he's not actually a real general. They base him on the attitude of the generals on both sides, how none of them really wanted to stop fighting because of their pride. So General Fredericks is not real, but you could see him as an actual German general for the German Empire.
Yeah.
But then you also have the other story with Esberger, and basically the French have these terms. You have 72 hours, sign it. You have no choice. We're not negotiating. You sign them. And so Esberger is able to get and have the terms telegraphed back to Berlin. And I think Hindenburg, who was the commander of the German forces, he later becomes president of the Weimar Republic. So Hindenburg approves it, and so ultimately Esberger and the others that made up the German delegation, they sign the armistice.
Right.
And they agree to end the war, of course, historically, on the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour. I know I mixed that up. Basically November 11th at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
On 1918. The problem is that's 3 days away. So the war is still going on. But the German soldiers have already heard about the forthcoming armistice, and a lot of them have basically stopped fighting. But you have General Fredericks, who hasn't stopped fighting.
Yeah, he hasn't stopped fighting. He basically is I don't want to stop this. I want to keep going.
Yeah.
And just remember, do it for the fatherland and how proud you'll be and the honor and all that bullshit,
Yeah, but before he does one final thing, some hardships come Paul's way. I mean, he makes it back to the castle where the troops are, and a lot of people died, and he finds out Franz also died. Because Trayden has that scarf.
Yeah, Franz also died, basically. And you also see... he realized with Kat, he's like, "Oh, Paul, you made it."
Yeah, Paul and Kat are still alive.
But then you see, what is it, Chundra?
Trayden. I think if we're mispronouncing his name, I'm sorry, but he's gonna lose his leg. I think he wanted to be a corporal, like a police officer, but he's afraid that he's not gonna be able to be a police officer now.
And he didn't want to live as a disabled man, basically.
Yeah, and so what happens is Paul and Kat bring some soup to Trayden
with utensils
while they're all sitting there, eating food together. And what happens?
Basically, he kills himself and takes his own life with a fork.
Yeah, Trayden chooses to kill himself
just because he didn't want to live as a disabled man. So he basically killed himself. And honestly, for what was coming next in the movie, it probably was the best move.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, but
yeah. But then after that, a day or two pass, and then Kat and Paul go back to the farm.
Yeah, they go back to the French farm because they're hungry.
Of the first movie.
And most people by now know that, they went to the farm the first time.
Yeah.
They got the goose. And most of you probably got the same feeling we got. Oh, this is not going to go as well.
Yeah, this is not going to go well. Once they go to the same farm.
Yeah.
So basically... he's just like, oh, if he sees me again, he'll kill me. So he sends Paul over instead of Kat.
Yeah.
And he's struggling. And then he starts collecting eggs.
Yeah.
But then the kid opens the barn door and sees Paul.
Yeah, because the farmer has a family, obviously.
Yeah, he has a son and the wife.
Yeah.
So basically, he's like, hello, you wanna try one? And then the son obviously closes the door on him and goes call his father with his shotgun to shoot him.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's gonna...
I don't know if it was a shotgun or...
It was a shotgun.
Okay. Maybe.
Yeah, because...
Maybe it was slugs?
I don't know. It didn't seem... It seems like a spread.
Okay.
Because every single time, if it was like a rifle, he would have obviously hit him.
Well, that comes to a moment later on after they managed to barely escape.
But yeah, they get out and they shot the eggs, and obviously they drink out. Don't worry, we'll have them this way, and then they just eat them.
Yeah.
And then obviously he's like, okay, well I'm gonna go for a piss.
Cat. Cat walks into the woods to take a piss, and we find out a lot about both these characters. Obviously, Paul's educated; he knows how to write and read. And even Kat, has Paul read for him a letter from his wife. So it's established that Kat has a wife. They lost a son to the pox. I think the son was like 10 years old. And basically what Kat has to look forward to going home to his wife and I guess making shoes.
Yeah, shoemaker.
But he wants Paul to go off to university. But even though Paul wants to go back and make shoes with Kat because they become best friends, they become basically inseparable. But one of the last things that Kat tells Paul is, no, if you don't go off to university, I'll kill you myself.
Yeah.
But
so basically, he goes, takes a piss, and then he turns around and hears some wrestling.
Yeah.
And who is there? The kid of the farmer.
Yeah.
And he's holding a rifle or a shotgun or whatever.
That's why I think it's a rifle because of what's about to happen.
So yeah, basically you hear like a gunshot and it transitions back to Paul.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, what happened?
Yeah.
And then Paul gets like scared, and then you see Kat just fine.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, don't worry, it was the fucking farmer's kid. But then you see Kat in pain like 5 seconds later, and of course he has a bullet wound.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It looks very round.
Yeah, but see, if it was a shotgun, then it would be more scattered.
And he was very close.
It was one shot, which means either A, it was a shotgun, but it was a slug round, or B, it was just a rifle. So I don't know. Maybe that's just a movie production issue there.
Yeah. So basically, he's like, oh, help, because he's basically carrying.
Yeah, he's carrying Pat back, trying to get Pat back to the castle.
Kat.
Yeah, Kat. He's trying
back
to
the castle, and then he sees like some random cars with soldiers on board.
Yeah, 2 trucks of German troops celebrating and drinking, or they don't give a fuck. They just drive by.
Yeah, they drive by, and basically it's like, hey, pick us up, and they basically get ignored. So he has to carry Kat
all the way back to the castle.
Yeah, and then he makes it to the castle. He lays him down. Hey, doctor, help me here. And then apparently he didn't make it.
Yeah.
He basically lied him down. It's like, oh, you could have saved yourself this trouble. And then he's like, well, what are you talking about? I was just talking to him. No, he's dead.
Yeah.
And then, he checks himself, and he's dead.
Yeah, because Kat actually got shot in the liver, and that's basically a death shot. Like, you can't survive that because it, I've heard about it before, and when you're shot in the liver, it just causes this dark red blood to come out. It's poisoning for the body, and you really can't survive that.
So he dies.
Yeah, he was basically dead already.
Yeah. So basically, then it's like, okay, we're going home at least.
Everyone's dead now except for Paul. All of his friends, including
everybody's
Kat,
dead. Yeah, except for Paul. So it's like, okay, well, we're finally gonna leave. The war's over, anyways. So and then the general calls.
Yeah, he calls up all the troops in front of the castle, the chateau, whatever it is that the German general Fredericks happens to be at.
Yeah.
And at this point, Paul doesn't give a shit anymore. You can tell. He's basically doesn't care anymore.
I mean, he was ready to go home.
He was ready to go home, but he doesn't give a shit after he's lost everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, he lost Franz, he lost Albert.
He lost everybody.
Yeah, he lost Trayton, and now he lost Kat.
Yeah. So he lost everybody, and now he's like, okay, well, calling to the castle, and everybody's like, okay, well, do you guys want to go home? We're finally going home. Or do you want to go fight for your country and, something for the fatherland and basically, go as troopers?
Yeah, basically he sends his soldiers off to fight one more battle to take the trench before the armistice initiates at 11 a.m. on November 11th.
But what happened?
The attack launches at 10:45 a.m. And there's some soldiers that don't want to do this, obviously, because they know that the ceasefire is about to happen. And what happens to those soldiers?
The ceasefire is about to happen. And it's like, I don't want to do this. I want to go home.
Yeah.
And then a few of them get grabbed. It's like, I don't want to go. But they get grabbed. They get put on the wall. And they get, ready, aim, fire. And they got killed.
Yeah, they get executed.
So close.
Yeah.
To the war ending.
Yeah.
And then they just got fucking executed.
Yeah. And there's also a young recruit that's happened to show up as well. That's about to protest as well, but then Paul stops him.
Yeah.
Because if the kid would have protested about wanting to go home,
he would have got killed.
The kid would have got put up on the wall too. So Paul does save this young recruit.
Yeah. So basically, after that, he gets sent into the battlefield. And
the French are celebrating in their trench because they know that armistice is about to commence, and they think the war's over.
They're very relaxed.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, well, it's gonna happen soon, so whatever.
Yeah,
and then they're very relaxed, just waiting for the order.
Yeah,
and basically they hear rumbling.
Yeah,
and
it's the seasoned French officer is aware of what that noise is.
And
he automatically knows, oh shit, they're coming for us. And
enemies incoming, and then they all get ready, but obviously they get ambushed.
Yeah.
But
it buys the French enough time to kill enough Germans that are charging the trench.
And then Paul makes it to the trench.
Yeah.
and basically he has this. He kills a few, but then he does a 1v1 with this French troop, random French troop that nobody named.
Yeah.
And they fight for their lives, and basically at the end they're all staring at each other.
Yeah, what happens is, like, Paul and him are fighting. They end up fisticuffing, and the French troop nearly drowns him in, like, muddy water. But Paul manages to grab a rock and hit him, and then they fall down into, like, a shelter.
Like a bunker.
A bunker, similar to the bunker that Paul was in that first night.
Yeah, so he falls there, and then they're both staring at each other, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
And then some random soldier out of nowhere comes and stabs Paul in the heart.
Yeah, a French soldier bayonets Paul in the heart.
He wasn't doing anything either. He was just standing there. But basically he gets bayoneted.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. He slowly walks out of the bunker, seeing the light.
Because it's armistice now. The war's over.
Yeah. And basically it cuts to light as like him walking to heaven. Basically, because he's going up the stairs with light. So basically.
Yeah.
And then you transition to the boy that Paul saved.
The recruit.
And then he says, like, okay, are you injured?
Yeah, a German officer comes up to him.
Yeah, okay, then start gathering the doc tags.
Yeah.
And then he sees everybody, and then he sees Paul.
Yeah, he does the same thing Paul does at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
As he's collecting dog tags. And, of course, it ends, like you said,
with Paul being collected.
Yeah.
So close.
Yeah.
So close, but he dies, and then it goes into this description of how many people died and what happened in the war and how horrifying it was, and it basically cuts to black and the movie ends.
Yeah.
Overall, very, very sad.
It was.
It was a very sad movie. No winners in war. Obviously, they all died.
Yeah.
And, I mean, as it is, because, I mean, if he lived, it would have been like an action movie.
Yeah, I know that the end was kind of some liberties were taken with, like, the French general. Mm-hmm. Because it wasn't an actual quote-unquote French, like General Fredericks. But I get where the director was going for with that. And I don't know if the Germans would have been that stupid to have marched off to their death with only 15 minutes left. But there are stories of similar things happening. I think the Americans under General Pershing, like, he intentionally didn't tell his troops about the armistice because he wanted them to have, like, one more triumphant battle against the Germans. So there's some truth there. But the characters are fictional, but they're set in real events that occurred.
Yeah. But overall, the movie was extremely dark, and obviously the horrors of war, and I mean, very sad movie.
It is.
It is a very sad movie. But overall, it's a very good movie to watch.
Yeah.
I will say this. I give it, like I said, 9 out of 10.
I agree.
Very good movie. I recommend watching it, and if you don't have Netflix, go get Netflix. Watch it right now because it's really good.
Yeah, especially if this is something that appeals to you at this point. I mean, I don't know. I mean, people are watching right now. I'm assuming that they watched this movie already and they're just hanging out for the spoiler section.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you haven't, then you're missing out.
You
should still go watch it, even if you listen to us tell you about the movie.
Well, yeah, but this is a spoiler, so that we're assuming that you already watched it.
We're assuming. We shouldn't do that because we'll get canceled.
Or if you don't care watching the movie, but you want to know what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically that's what happens. Overall, very good movie. I recommend everybody watching it.
Me too.
And even if you're not into war flicks or something like that, it's still an entertaining movie.
Yeah, it's got great characters. The production value is very impressive. I was surprised that it was. I could be wrong about it, but it said $20 million budget. Maybe it was more. Like, it doesn't look like a $20 million film though. It looks like something way more, like maybe $200 million.
Yeah, but what I like is that it portrays the horror of war really well.
It does.
Because one thing you do not want to do with war is sugarcoat it.
No, and that's what they used to do in the past.
Or portray like war characters as like heroes, or like you're a hero. He fought in war. He's a hero. It's like there's no heroes in war, or war is dark. Everybody basically, if you're sent to war, you're dead.
Yeah.
Or
unless you're one of the generals that gets to sit back in their freaking chateau and drink wine and eat the finest food.
Yeah, it's very horrific and very dark. It's not something that should be taken lightly.
I agree.
So, that's pretty much it for our spoiler review.
Yeah.
Overall, like I said, a very good movie. Go see it.
It was a great movie.
Great movie. And if you've seen it, well, tell us what you think in the comment section, of course. And that's pretty much it for me. I think I've said everything I wanted to say about the movie. What do you think, Chibi?
I agree wholeheartedly with you. I mean, it's definitely an anti-war film. I think that's what the director was going for, to like really open people's eyes to the horrors that these real soldiers went through in the First World War. Because all too often, it was World War II that was the focus of TV shows and movies and video games. But about a decade ago, and it's hard to believe it's been about a decade, around the 100-year anniversary of the First World War, which was, 2014, that's when we finally started seeing more World War I stuff, like in Battlefield 1, 1917. We still need to watch 1917. Maybe we
got to watch that.
Because I've been wanting to watch that for years, but I haven't gotten around to it. But I really want to check out 1917 because a lot of people sing its praises.
Yeah, G Factor. Yeah, basically.
Your grandma.
My grandma, G Factor, as I call her.
Yeah.
Basically, she saw it and she told me it was like really, really good. And she told me, "Oh, why didn't you see it with me?" And I could have seen it with her, but it's like, I don't want to watch it. That's boring. But I was like 20.
Yeah, but
so
who knows? Maybe we'll do that for a future review. And we're not just going to do war films or movies. We'll do some TV shows here and there. But I mean, I think this was a really good start for our new review series.
Yeah, it starts with a very good movie.
It does. A great movie. And look, if it's a crappy movie, we'll warn you about that as well.
I wonder how we're going to do if we ever see Cocaine Bear and we're going to put it here.
Oh, we're going to do Cocaine Bear. Don't worry. I think we're going to go try and watch Cocaine Bear this coming week. Mm-hmm. And if we do, we'll obviously do a review of Cocaine Bear.
Right. That's going to be so stupid.
On a lighter note.
It's going to be, I feel like it's going to be one of those movies that you just see popcorn. It's like, oh, okay.
It's just a silly, popcorn pleaser, dark humor.
I wonder, when do you want to see it?
We'll try to go see it sometime this week.
All right, sometime this week. Okay, we'll see.
And then once we do that, we'll record our review for that. And we'll post it here on our vlogs channel.
Hooray.
Yeah. And once again, feel free to check out previous reviews I've done. I did some Star Wars reviews a while back. I've also done some other TV movie reviews. We got the playlists for you.
GB will put the playlist, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you know me and playlists.
He loves them.
I love them playlists.
He loves them. But, let me see if I can land this plane.
All right.
But, yeah.
Before we wrap up, she's going to try and land. And thanks again, everybody that took the time to watch our review and hang out with us for the past nearly 50 minutes. We didn't plan on going that long.
I was planning on maybe 30,
we'll try to go shorter depending on the movie. I guess it depends on the movie. Cocaine Bear may not be as long of a review, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, we managed to successfully land the biplane. So guess what? Good news. You can now be a fighter pilot in the First World War.
Yep. Look at me. As I land on the street.
Just watch out for the Red Baron.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyways, your thoughts, views, and opinions regarding All Quiet on the Western Front, as always, welcome below in the comments section.
Bye-bye.